Welcome to the Possibility Mindset Podcast. I'm Devin Henderson, your host, and I believe that something greater is always possible for you. Well, hello everybody. It's so great to have you back. How you feeling? How you doing? Really? I mean, are you feeling like you're in the possibility mindset right now? Are you being weighed down by possible challenges that have come into your life? Do you have some strategies to get past those roadblocks? Well, you've come to the right place because today we're going to talk about how to keep asking what else is possible. And we're mainly going to be focusing on how to finish strong. This has sort of been a theme in my life lately and in the people around me. So, are you a person who typically finishes strong? If not, what does keep you from finishing strong, and what practices can you put in place right now to finish strong this day, this week, this month, this season of your life? So I'm excited to talk about finishing strong with you. We'll get to all that, but first, we're going to go ahead and jump into some updates and some fun. So I owe you listeners who have been, listening to the past few podcasts an update on what I have named the 3-2 work to family ratio. So if you didn't listen to that podcast, I think it was episode 5, and I talked about work-life balance as a father of 7 daughters. And in that podcast, I sort of talked myself into this commitment of how can I better balance family and work. And I decided that my most focused time is in the mornings. And so I want to give the best to my family, not just the rest of my energy to my family. But of course, I have to also give my best to my work at times, right? So how do you balance that? So I decided that of my most focused times a week, there's, 5 workday mornings. I'm going to give 3 of those to work and then 2 to my family. And then weekends kind of not included in this plan. Weekend is that's a given that's kind of a time to rest and focused on my family. So of the 5 work days, of the mornings, 3 will go to work, 2 to family, thus the 3-2 work to family ratio. So how's that been going? Well, it's been hard to really measure that lately because right after I made that commitment, we went to the fair. The fair, if you're listening, I'm giving air quotes. The fair is Sylvan Grove, Kansas. My wife is from a small town of 300, and so we just go for a few days. And it's hot, but this year it wasn't as hot. But I really got to focus on family while I was there. So in terms of commitment, I was like an overachiever that week, right? Because I got to spend so much time with them. But then I came back from that and I went straight on a trip, and I was gone longer than expected. I went up to Prior Lake, Minnesota, Mystic Lake Casino. And if you watched episode 6, this last podcast, you'll know that that's where I got to keynote with Mark Mayfield. He was the opener, I was the closer, and so we did an interview in my hotel room. Thankfully, I was in a suite, so it didn't look so much like a hotel room, but that was a great interview. By the way, if you didn't listen to that interview, please go back and check that out. Mark and I just chatted as friends. We talked for over an hour, but we really focused on his new laser-focused topic of mental health and all things stress, anxiety, and depression. So yeah, please go back and listen to or watch that episode and pass it along to someone who needs to hear that right now. Okay, maybe someone's struggling with their mental health, and Mark's message can help them. So that week, last week I was up in Prior Lake, and then I was supposed to fly home my second day there, but then my flight got, delayed, canceled. And so then I had to fly out the next day, and flights were limited because everybody was trying to book fast. And so I didn't get in till late that night because I had to take a late flight. There were no direct flights and got in late. So the family thing that week kind of balanced out. I'm glad I had the fair to pour into them because then last week I was gone longer than expected. But I am still focused on that, and will continue to give updates on the 3-2 work to family ratio. So, thanks for asking. Let's see, other updates. We sent out an email this week. We have like an email newsletter list that goes out to many people. And the subject line, we officially launched the new podcast in terms of my email followers and subscribers. So we let them know the podcast is launched. I didn't really want to make a big announcement until we had a good half dozen episodes, ready to go, done, finished, so people could kind of go and actually have something to listen to. So it was exciting to make that announcement. So here I am. I am officially in the podcast space. Watch out, Joe Rogan. That's all I'm saying. I'm coming for you. I am hot on your tail in terms of numbers of subscribers and downloads. Watch out, man. Okay. But anyway, in that email, the subject line was my new podcast, ! Well, soon after that email blast went out, my mom texted me and said, "Did you know that you had a typo?" And it says podast, not podcast. And I was like, what you don't want to annoy your subscribers again and be like, sorry for the typo. They don't care, right? They noticed it. But it's awesome that you have someone like your mom to point that out, to remind you next time. Be more mindful. Don't just overlook, don't just look at the email content, look at everything, including the subject line, so that the first thing they see is not podast, whatever that even means. Okay. So anyway, I'm excited about the new podast. Maybe that's the new word. I don't know. Let's see here. Other updates. That's about it. I have, jumping into the segments, I have a new segment. I'm calling it random for now, and we'll see what happens with this, because I had ideas to share with you that didn't really fit into confessions of a motivational speaker or, trivial complaints. And it was like, where does this fit? Well, I thought, I'll just have a random segment every week. And that way, if something doesn't fit, it just goes right into it. So here's your first random segment. This is it. This is what it is. What is this called? What is that? Now, if you're listening, what I'm holding up, these are the little tabs that open cans of pop. And my daughter is collecting these. And in fact, at the fair, she had a bunch of them, and she was asking everybody, hey, can I have the top of your, pop can, whatever. The reason I'm bringing this up is because I'm like, what do you call this? Right? What is this thing called? Because I was like, Cambry, what are you collecting? She goes, the little top that you flip that opens the can. She didn't have a name for it. I didn't know what it was called. Now, I asked my wife, and she went against my rule. Now, I don't expect my rules to be everybody's rules, but she Googled it. So I was like, no, we're not supposed to Google it. This is something that, when we were young, we used to donate these things because I guess they recycle them. And so, you'd have, a drive to collect these and put them in. But I was always like, but what do they call it? I don't have a name for it, so I have to describe it every time I'm telling people, hey, my daughter's collecting these. So just give us them. So I want to be able to just say what it is and have people know instantly, but I'm not sure. Is it pop can tab? Is it opener thingy? What's it called? So comment, please. Let me know if you're my age, if you're an adult, you're looking back at your childhood, what did we call those things? Just curious. Just thought that was interesting. So that's the random. You see why I call it random? Totally random. I don't know, but it came to my attention enough to where I'm like, I'm going to ask my podcast community, what are those things called? So let's have some fun with it. I challenge you not to go straight to Google and see if you can come up with what you think it's called. Okay, time for today's trivial complaint. My trivial complaint for today is really the ultimate first world problem type deal. It's like, wow, you're worried about this, Devin. You must not have that big of real problems. So here it is. Massage chairs, right? They are so uncomfortable typically. Now, I love getting massages, and so I typically do it, if I'm traveling, if I go to a mall or airport, there's always a chance for massage. So, after a long day of travel, especially when my flight gets canceled and I'm in the airport an extra day, it's like, I could use a little squeezy on the old trapezius. Wait, is that what it's called? Trapezius? That doesn't sound right. I think that's right though. But getting that good squeeze. But the chairs, it's just so hard for me to get comfortable in the chair. And maybe I'm super picky. I don't know. But once they put you in that chair, the face part of it is always too low. So I know I'm always automatically going to be like, can we raise this up? And then we don't always speak the same language. So I'm just kind of pointing direct, which is fine, but I just have to kind of point this way, that way. And so it's usually like, bring it up. Now, can we bring it out that way? Because what happens is once I put my face into the little circle, because I'm talking about like, the chair, not the table, the massage chair. Once I put my face into it, either like the padding is so low that it's like bumping into my nose and I can't breathe, or it's too high. And then the metal part under the padding is like cutting into my jaw. I know, poor Devin. His massage chair isn't perfect. And then, like, besides the face not being comfortable, it's like just hard to get that head and neck in the right position. So I always feel like I'm asking the person to readjust it 3 or 4 times. I feel like I'm annoying them, but I have to remind myself, this is my massage. I am paying for this. I should be comfortable. One time I kept adjusting it so much the guy was finally like, you know what? Why don't you just come lay down on the table? And I was like, whoa. My grumbling paid off. So anyway, there it is, the trivial complaint for today, massage chairs and their comfortability. Now, sometimes you do get the perfect chair where you sit down and you're like, oh, this is heaven. Everything's like perfect, and they get it right into the right place, and you basically fall asleep. So that's the kind of massage chair I'm looking for. Of course, why do I give these trivial complaints? Just a reminder to zoom out, right, on your blessings, because there are so many blessings. That's why I even bring these up. So there you go. Okay, today's confession of a motivational speaker. Here we go, y'all. This is a major vulnerable part for me, but check this out. Until about a year ago, I thought that height was a word. Okay, like height, but height. And Heighth. So just adding an H onto the word height. Now, I knew height was also a word, but I thought height was another word. Like, the height, the height of that building is this, but what's the height? I had my own lexicon, my own dictionary going of when I would use height, and I just thought I had an understanding of when to use which word. Kind of like, I think it came from width and length. Why is it not height? Why is it width, length, height? I don't understand. I think that's where the confusion happened early on in my childhood, and it just stuck somehow. Maybe I saw it misspelled somewhere. Maybe it was a typo of someone else's, and I was like, oh, height is a word. Well, I was somehow, like I could say a year ago, I used the word height, and my wife was like, did you say height? I was like, yeah, height, like width, length, height. She's like, it's not a word. I was like, who did I marry, right, that doesn't know that height is a word? Anyway, the word is height. So there you have it. My confession of a motivational speaker. Now, remember, I hope these confessions, this isn't because I just need counseling about these things. No, this is to empower you to realize that even people like motivational speakers and everyone around you who might appear to be perfect on social media or otherwise also have their shortcomings and insecurities. And so I wanted to empower you to realize, hey, you can also have self-doubts, insecurities, imperfections, and remember that something greater is always possible for you. Okay, so having a little fun here, also a little encouragement. All right, moving on to another new segment. Okay, 2 new segments today. Man, things are hot. Things are getting crazy, but we're just moving right along today. We're kind of plowing through. The other new segment we have is something I think I may have said I was going to do, something called Girl Talk. Now, what I do is in my phone, as my children say funny things, they'll say things that are not only funny, but maybe super wise, or just things that are cute, things that I'm like, I have to write that down and remember. And so I have this long list in my notes called Girl Talk, and it just goes on and on and on. And I started it when my oldest Claire was really young. And so sometimes we'll just sit down for an evening and just scroll through and just look back and laugh. And so it's a funny way to capture the moment. It's kind of like taking a picture, because when you read that, you remember the exact moment of when they said this thing. It's crazy how that works. So I just thought, I'm going to start sharing some Girl Talk things. I used to include them in my newsletters, and I thought this will be a perfect place to do this. I'm just going to start with just a few today. I'm not going to name their names. I'll just say the age, Now, it's going to be obvious when it's the oldest, when it's Claire, because, she's like 16. So I'm going to start with one of hers. It's something she said today. I'm sure she won't mind me sharing it, but this was awesome. Okay, here we go. She said, I'm wondering, this is 16 years old, I'm wondering if this is what drugs feel like. It's like, what's going on? I feel like I'm ascending. What kind of Folgers did you buy? There it is, verbatim. Okay, the next one. I said to my 11-year-old, "Did you eat anything?" She said, "No, but I accidentally swallowed some toothpaste." All right, 6-year-old. I'll finish on this one today. Like I say, we'll start small. Next week, we might do a few more. My 6-year-old said, "I almost coughed out snot, out of my nose." There you go. That's today's girl talk. Hope you enjoyed that. More girl talk to come. Okay, before we jump into the idea of finishing strong, I just want to read a few comments for you today. So the first one was from Instagram. This was just an awesome compliment. This woman said, "You are such a remarkable person as well as an amazing husband and father. I'm so grateful to know you and the amazing family you are surrounded by each day." And I wanted to read that because I agree. I am surrounded by an amazing family, and I wouldn't be the person, the man that I am without them. I wouldn't have the message to share because I'm so inspired by my family, but I also have learned so much from just being a husband and a father, just about how to become greater and also how to inspire other people to become their best. So thank you for that comment on Instagram. Appreciate that. This was from my keynote specifically. The person said, "I had chills the entire time." Ooh, chills the entire time. This is where I was supposed to be today. That's awesome, and I love that because I believe everything happens for a reason, and I believe that that's where you were supposed to be that day too. So I'm glad that you had chills the whole time, and there was no specifics on exactly how they were impacted, but I just hope that you went away knowing to always keep asking the question, what else is possible? All right, last one about the keynote too. "Thank you. Truly was an amazing experience. It had been a tough go lately, but now I know something greater is always possible. I can do it. I will be debt-free." So, no, I'm not Dave Ramsey. I'm not a financial person, but I do ask everyone in the crowd to think of a goal they would like to achieve, and like a big goal. I call it a seemingly impossible goal. Some people call it stretch goals. But we're talking about what's that, big, hairy, audacious goal. Some people call it, that it seems like it'd be absolutely impossible, but if the stars lined, if everything were perfect, how would you feel once you've achieved this goal? And so I love this person had, I want to be debt-free. And I believe that it can happen because something greater is always possible. So I love that they came out with that specific goal. I believe you can do it too. And also this person, they said it's been a tough go lately. And I think we can all relate to that, and that's why today I wanted to talk about finishing strong. I've been talking to people lately who they've been going well, things are well, and then situations pop up where it's like things were going so well, I was about to achieve my goal, then I hit these roadblocks. So let's do this. Let's talk about finishing strong. Now, first of all, I have to tell you this. If I've mentioned before that my wife and I play cards every morning. Our main go-to game is cribbage. Cribbage games last about 15, 20 minutes, So we drink coffee, we have cards. Now, if you know anything about cribbage, so this next portion is specifically for people who play cribbage. Okay, you'll appreciate it the most. Now, if you're listening, I'm actually going to be showing some playing cards. This was my hand in cribbage. This is what won me the game. Now, this is actually what I had in my hand. I had 3 5s and the Jack of Hearts, and then I threw away 2 other cards. I can't remember what they were, but I kept these. And then my wife, actually, hold on. This was the hand, and I'm being specific because, okay, it's hard to look in the camera and do that. I have to get the right 5 out. Okay, here we go. Third time is the charm, baby. All right, there were 3 5s and a Jack, and then my wife cut the 5 of Hearts. Again, this is all cribbage lingo, but that's significant because that gave me the Jack point. This was a 29-point hand. This put me in the stink, as we call it in cribbage, and then what I had in my crib, put me over the top to win. And it was a close game. We were just like pegging was really good that game. We were really close, and then this hand was like a whole street. Put me in the stink hole. My cribbage won me the hand. That is what I'm talking about, finishing strong. When I had this in my hand, I was like, wait a minute. We've always talked about that hand that's the most points you can get in your hand in cribbage. And I was like, is this it? And then my wife cut that 5 of Hearts where I was like, oh my gosh, that's the 4th 5, and it gives me the Jack point. Oh, my wife took a picture of it. She texted it to the people in her family because they're all cribbage players. And she's like, I don't know if even my father has ever seen this hand. We've talked about it. She goes, I bet we'll never see this again in our lifetime. And I agree. 29 points, absolutely insane. That's how you finish strong. Not like, that's how I finish strong. I just got way lucky, got dealt the right hand. No, I did not cheat. For those of you who know that I do magic and all that, I didn't cheat. That was legit. So that was just a fun way of finishing strong. Now, I remember this idea of like it's summer right now, right? And I saw an Oceans of Fun commercial when I was a kid. If you're in Kansas City, you know what Oceans of Fun is. It's a big water park, water slides, lazy rivers, all that, like a big one. I used to go there when I was a kid, and there was a commercial when I was a kid. Okay. That said, it was an Oceans of Fun commercial. It said, "Is the summer half gone, or is half of the summer left?" And I remember when I watched that commercial, I was like, man, what a good way to look at that. Kind of like, is the cup half full or half empty? In fact, we watched Finding Nemo last night. And when Marlin and Dory were in the whale, Marlin's like, the water's level is lowering. I think it's about half empty. She goes, oh, I'd say it's half full. And my wife was like, I love how Marlin can't get Dory down. She's just always positive. But that positive mindset with, summer's half left, that's kind of like where we are right now. We've got about half the summer left, okay? Because what is it, August 5th, and fall starts, is it September 21st? So we're just past the halfway point. Now, if you're a teacher, you probably think of summer more of like June, July, August. So maybe, summer is even less than half here. But let's just go with the narrative that the season of summer itself, half is left. All right, what are you going to do with that, right? Did you have goals for summer that you started with? Maybe it was like health goals. Maybe it was financial goals. Maybe you're trying to become debt-free like my audience member. What are those goals that you started really strong in summer and that you're kind of like, things are popping up, things are getting busy, school's starting, right? I'm getting tired. The workload's increasing. What things are threatening to pop up to keep you from finishing strong? Well, how do you overcome that? Like, what can you put into place? Does it just mean to like recommit? Tell someone that you have these goals? Does it mean like adjusting the goals a little bit? And that's okay to do, to be like, well, maybe I'm not going to be completely debt free, but maybe I'll have my car paid off. Something that you're like, this is an attainable goal that I can readjust. Next Tuesday, I have a Zoom call with Derek's group. So if Derek, if y'all happen to listen to this, shout out to you. This is actually before our conversation. They're in the Grand Forks market for the First Community Credit Union. I did a keynote for the First Community Credit Union last year, and Derek and his team adopted Something Greater is Always Possible as their theme for the year. And so we've been meaning to do a Zoom call since like January just to kind of have a little touch in. And it's so funny because Derek emailed me recently. He said, hey, for our Zoom call, can we just talk about finishing strong? And I was like, that's crazy, because I had already planned on making this podcast about that very topic. So I mentioned there's a lot of people who are kind of going through finishing strong. He's one of them. So shout out to Derek and your team. I hope that our conversation is fun. I also hope that this right now brings value to you and helps you really close out the quarter with power and resilience and passion. My kids, too, lately have been experiencing a lot of disappointment. There's just been like one disappointment after another. Just, I would say little things, but big things to them. Like they were supposed to house sit for a dog, and this family's going on vacation. They were going to house sit, and the family said, you can stay here, you can hang out. So they've been saving videos to watch. Like they follow this YouTube influencer, Mariah Elizabeth. She's a crafty person. They were going to watch it. They were going to hang out with the dog. They were going to kind of live in this house. And they got the last minute message of, never mind, we don't need you. We're going to board the dog up. And it's like, it just like changed that week for them. Or my daughter was going to have a slumber party recently. Her friend was over. Then her friend felt sick right before the sleepover. And it was like this, those letdowns you have even as a kid, they seem so small when you're growing up. Like, they'll be fine. There'll be other chances for dog sitting and sleepovers. But just that disappointment can really take the wind out of your sails. And as well as I do, when one thing happens, when you experience any kind of disappointment in life, no matter how big or how small, it can affect everything, right? It can be like you just lose your drive in general. So how do you keep that drive up when you get that disappointment? How can you overcome that, maybe even come back stronger? Look for the blessing in it. Like, for instance, we just we had storms that wrecked one of our trees, and we had to like cut half the tree down, and it's really taken away a lot of the shade. It's really changed the personality of our backyard. But last night, we kept some of the stumps, and the kids were out there painting stumps together, and it was kind of like one of those, they wouldn't be out there painting together right now had this not happened. And so that's one of the ways to overcome the disappointment, is just to realize there might be a blessing in this right now. Sometimes in ways that we can see, sometimes hidden blessings right now or down the road, where maybe it's good that storm came and did that to that tree, because maybe that tree would have fallen and in a different storm and hurt somebody, or damaged some property. So it's just good to remember, kind of like that trivial complaint thing, when you just zoom out, say, okay, we have these trivial complaints, we zoom out, we can remember, always give thanks, like I talk about in my keynote and on social media. Always give thanks. There's always a reason to be thankful for. If something's not working, what else in my life is working? Where are my greatest treasures? So just talking about some of the ways to kind of overcome these obstacles, come back stronger from disappointment. Now, There's some people may see eye to eye with me on this, some may not. There's a lot of parenting strategies that I grew up with that parents were like, this is how we do it, and this is what the culture says. And recently, my wife and I have been taking a closer look at, okay, what do we need to do? What's right for us? What's right for our kids? And one thing we've seen parents do is, and we've been guilty of it too, when you start an activity, you will finish that activity. In other words, if you signed up for an art class and you go the first couple of times and you hate the art class, it's like, well, you decided you're going to do it. You signed up for it. You will finish it. I don't believe in that anymore. I don't believe that we have to finish every single thing that we start. Because sometimes if you get into something, you might make an investment. You might be throwing money away in a sense by just having a little bit of a discovery period. But if you know immediately that this is not the thing for you, and there's no way you could have known it otherwise, it's okay to pull out, right? Because why keep wasting time in something that you don't enjoy? And maybe someone would counter argue, well, if you stick with it, maybe you'll find out you do enjoy it. Maybe that's true. But why torture yourself just on the principle of you decided to do this, now you must finish? I don't believe that's true. I think it's okay to pull out. I think it's okay to change direction and then put that time into something that, another discovery of something that maybe you'll enjoy, maybe that's a better fit for you. So just a parenting philosophy there. Now, whatever you're finishing, I just want to encourage you right now, whatever you're finishing, just push through. That, and call that a strategy, just call it encouragement. Just, you can do it. Keep pushing. It's so hard. For me, I always feel like I'm trying to lose 10 pounds. It's like, but I always want to lose that last 10. I just want to be like last night, we celebrated one of our kids' birthday and I ate too many brownies, too much ice cream. But I'm not going to wake up and be like, well, I blew it last night. I may as well just eat cake again today, all day. It's like, no. Pick up the ball, like I talk about. Pick it up, move on, finish strong. That's my encouragement to you. Like I talk about in my keynote, start small, end big. Just pick it up today in little ways, and then that's going to make a bigger difference over time. Okay, now, I want to go back to the tree. This tree in our backyard that got damaged by the storm. We've had actually a couple of storms lately here in the Kansas City area. And so in one of the storms, we had power out, and there've been a lot of tree damage just in our neighborhood, in our city. As we walk around our neighborhood, there's just trees and big limbs down just everywhere. And you always kind of think it's not going to happen to you, right? But it did. It happened to our favorite tree in the backyard, favorite tree because we only have 2 trees. Our other tree is smaller. And this is the one that got damaged was the one that provides the most shade. And I was worried at first they wouldn't even be able to save it. But it made me think about a couple things, how it relates to finishing strong. And so the first sort of analogy is that I had been thinking about years about having a professional tree service come out and trim that tree to thin it out, because I guess the theory is, as the strong winds, and we had like 80-mile-an-hour winds, the thicker the tree is, the more damage can be done because it's catching so much wind. And so for years I've been knowing we need to get that tree professionally trimmed, and we just haven't. And maybe it would have, I can't prove that it would have happened, or that it wouldn't have happened had we had it trimmed. But I feel like the parallel that I want to make here is that, if you neglect yourself and upkeep, then you'll eventually break, right? If you just kind of let things go and you don't manage your money, your home, your body, your health, your relationships, eventually something's going to give. And that's what happened with our tree. It's a trunk that goes up about 6 feet and that splits into two major parts, and it just split right there in the middle. And when they came and looked at it, they said, yeah, it's cracked. This half has to go. We can save this half. And so, it's about, pay attention. Find your weak points, right? Address those weak points. Had the tree been properly weighted, it may have not split at that part because it was just maybe the weight that split it. And that's why we just have to keep on top of things. Keep on top of yourself. This is what can help you finish strong right now, is looking at where are my weak spots? How can I address those? And also with that, getting counsel, getting insight from other people. Like I needed to call the tree people. I wasn't about to get out there with the chainsaw that I don't have, get up in a tree and start chopping things down. Like I don't know how to do that safely. They do. Also, I don't know what's best for the growth of the tree. Like, can we save it? Does it all need to come down? And I don't know which branches to trim to ensure the tree's survival. So getting input from other people, asking people closest to you, what do you see? Where are the weak points where I need attention? And, I've heard one of the best questions to ask your significant other or your children or the closest people you work to, people that you trust, is on a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a job am I doing as a blank? A boss, a husband, a wife, a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a father, a son. Ask, and then just be quiet, let them answer. Don't get defensive. But that's a way to address maybe those weak areas where you need help. Okay, that's get that counsel, get other eyes on it. Get outside of yourself. And then, once you find those weak areas, what can you do to address those? Is it just about changing some habits, saying no to certain things so you can say yes to the important things? Is it about delegation, like with the tree people, letting them take care of the trimming and hauling away and, shredding the limbs and everything, because they're better at that, and that opens me up to focus on the important things. Had I tried to, for example, tackle that tree project by myself, which I never would have done, but imagine if I had done that, how much time that would have taken up and how dangerous that would have been, and how there's no way I would have gotten to recording a podcast today. I'd still be up in that tree trying to trim it down. But in your life, what are areas where you can delegate things? And if they're not delegatable, look at ways. What things can I make delegatable? How can I shift them? How can I change them? Like, for instance, one thing I'm working on right now is I have Crystal, my awesome personal assistant and booking coordinator, totally overqualified, totally amazing. I've got Stevie, shout out to Stevie also, my amazing social media person. I've got this team of people helping me because I can't do all these things by myself, but there's a few things that I feel like I can't delegate this thing, like my personal inbox. There's no way I could delegate that, but now a friend challenged me, maybe that's a bottleneck in my business. That's eating up a lot of my time. How can I delegate even that? So I'm just starting to brainstorm ways with how can I, tell someone all the nuances of all the messages that come in. How can someone else take some of that load off so that I can focus on the creative part of my job? So what is that for you? How can you make things more delegatable? Okay. So when it comes to finishing strong, how can you start trimming that tree now before the storm hits? How can you find those weak areas? How can you get people to help you from the outside look in and see what areas need attention? And then what action can you take to safeguard yourself, your life, your work from any kind of destruction that might come from your next storm, setback, challenge? Well, there it is. That's how we can finish strong, right? Get ready right now and push through. Okay, something greater is always possible. I believe you can hit those seemingly impossible goals. So whatever goals you had for the end of summertime, just push through. Keep picking up that ball and encourage other people too around you to keep picking up the ball in their life and their work. Okay, there it is, everybody. Again, shout out to Derek and the Grand Forks Market. Did I get that right? Grand Forks Market. Yeah, FCCU. Look forward to our conversation. All right, thank you all so much. And remember, never stop asking the question, what else is possible?